So we've pretty much talked about the sadhana. There was one short question that somebody asked for those who are doing the self-generation. After you do the mantra and the lam rim, you keep on with your visualization of being the medicine Buddha. When you dedicate, you can keep on imagining yourself as medicine Buddha during the break time. So then I thought to talk a little bit about the unshakable determinations that the medicine Buddha made, so we can get a little bit into how a bodhisattva thinks. As we go through them, you'll see that they're very culturally conditioned. A lot of, several of them, they really resonate with the environment at that time, where there was a lot more physical suffering than we have nowadays. Yeah, and so many of them deal with various forms of physical suffering. That's not to say we don't have physical suffering here. We have plenty of it. We certainly have it in the rest of the world outside of our country. Yeah. But it doesn't, the precepts don't talk as strongly about the mental emotional suffering that we have so prominently in this country. Because I think when you live in a culture or a time period where you're basically trying to just stay alive, you don't always have the luxury of having mental and emotional problems, because all your time and energy is going into just keeping the body alive. So it's interesting how when we have the more time, yes, it gives us the opportunity to think about all sorts of things and develop culturally and intellectually and spiritually and stuff like that, which is quite wonderful. But the extra time also, if we don't know how to think properly, gives us more time to develop our mental afflictions and to ruminate about the various problems we have and to dig ourselves into holes. In my generation, we talked a lot about the generation gap between us and our parents, because we were growing up in the middle of the Vietnam War. And our parents had no clue, why we were protesting and flower children and, all of this. They had no idea. And the whole thing of, getting to know yourself and all that. They had no idea. And of course, we didn't understand them very well. But then as you get older, when you think, okay, our parents grew up after, they were born some years after World War I, which was a war that completely shattered people's image of what civilization was. It was the first war where they had such sophisticated armaments, and so many people were killed. People came home with shell shock, which is the old term for PTSD. They come home, then what happens? The stock market crashes. So our parents were growing up in the middle of the Depression, where it was difficult to get food, where, the economy really bellied out then, and it was a horrible living condition for people. And then after that came World War II, and again, more war, more shattering of the human conception of what it meant to be human beings. And so, growing up between two wars and in the middle of the Depression, our parents' generation, they were just trying to stay alive, and get some food. And they didn't have the luxury of thinking about just and unjust wars like my generation had. And they didn't, have the luxury of thinking about, what's the meaning of life and, this kind of stuff. There were a few intellectuals in Paris, after World War I that hung out together and thought about these things. But everybody else was like, let's just try and stay alive and rebuild after this war. And they rebuilt. There was the Depression. There was another war. So, you can see that what people think about, what becomes prominent in people's minds, depends on the whole society, the whole milieu where they grow up. Yeah, and so when you think about the unshakable resolves of the Medicine Buddha, they very much reflect those times. I think the Medicine Buddha, if he were alive in America now, there would be another unshakable resolve to liberate all sentient beings from anxiety. Yeah, because anxiety's the big thing now, isn't it? Yeah, people are so anxious, so fearful, a lot of PTSD. Yeah. And so wouldn't that be one of the things that would be emphasized in the Medicine Buddha's precepts? Yeah, because we have the luxury of creating anxiety for ourselves. Yeah? As individuals and as a culture. Yeah, we have these impossible standards now where everybody's supposed to be, so successful, and, people to get into college, they have to have all these extracurricular activities and all the this and that, and they have to score beautifully, and they have to have blah, 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 blah. And then, then they wonder, do I want to go to college because I'm going to come out with $80,000 in debt? And they get more anxious about getting into college, anxious about what happens when they get out of college. Some people not having the opportunity for further education, getting anxious about that because the manufacturing in the U.S. has steadily gone down in many years, not even so much because it's gone to other countries, but because of technology. Yeah. And so all these forms of anxiety and fear that people have now, because of the way society is, and because we have so much time to sit and think about it. Yeah, and if we don't know how to think properly, we create horror shows, and that we think are real. And there we go. Okay, so to keep this in mind when we're thinking about the healing energy that Medicine Buddha is sending to us and to all sentient beings, put the things that are especially happening in our time in there too, because it helps to make it more relevant. Okay. So the sheet with the Unshakable Resolves was one of the ones sent to you before you came, in case you printed it out or brought it with you by other means. Okay, so I'll just start from, this is extracted from the Sutra on the Merits of the Fundamental Vows of the Master of Healing, the Lapis Lazuli Radiance Tathagata. So the Buddha told Manjushri, if you go eastward beyond as many Buddha fields as there are 10 times the number of grains of sand in the Ganges River, so far away. Okay, a Buddha field is also, it's the same as a pure land, and where a Buddha establishes a land where they attain awakening, and then where other living beings can be reborn to practice. Okay, so in this eastward direction, you will find a realm known as pure lapis lazuli. The Buddha there is known as Master of Healing, the lapis lazuli radiance Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly awakened one, perfect in mind and deed, well gone, he who knows the world, unsurpassed being, tamer of the passion, teacher of devas and men, humans, Buddha, and Buddha, okay? Should be a period there. So all the epithets here of the Medicine Buddha, I think most of them are pretty similar. They're probably different translations, but the same Sanskrit, terms, as in the opening chant that we do to Shakyamuni Buddha, where we say the Buddha transcended, I can never say things when I have to do it alone. The Buddha transcended, destroyer, glorious conqueror, Shakyamuni, prostrate. Yeah, no, but when we start at the beginning, thou transcendent destroyer, one thus gone, foe destroyer, completely and fully awakened one, okay? So foe destroyer is Arhat, completely and fully awakened one, perfectly enlightened Buddha, and we have, perfect in mind and deed, well gone is Tathagata, he's the unsurpassed being, unsurpassed being, the teacher of gods and humans, so the same kind of epithets there, each of which has a lot of explanation that help you to understand what a Buddha is. Okay, so and Lord. Okay, so Buddha and Lord. The period goes after Lord. Manjushri, when that Buddha, Lord Master of Healing, the lapis lazuli radiance Tathagata, first set out on the Bodhisattva path, he made 12 vows, 12 unshakable resolves, to enable all sentient beings to obtain that which they seek. Okay, when we do the Amitabha chanting, like last night, Amitabha did 48 unshakable resolves. Medicine Buddha did these 12. Okay, so the first one, I vow that when I attain the unexcelled complete awakening, that means that all afflictions have been eliminated, all pollutions in the mind, all obscurations have been overcome in such a way that they can never appear, and all realizations and development of the mind's capacity has been completed limitlessly. Okay, so when he attains that state in a future age, so he's not saying by next Tuesday, he's seeing that it's going to take some time, even though he already is a bodhisattva. A radiant light will blaze forth from my body. It will brilliantly illuminate limitless, countless, boundless realms. This body will be excellently adorned with the 32 signs of the great person and 80 marks. I will cause all sentient beings to wholly resemble me. Okay? So imagine you're in a desperate state. Yeah? Imagine you're Freddie Gray in the back of that van that's careening around Baltimore. And you're in pain and you're desperate. And for some reason or another, you think of the Medicine Buddha at that time. and the medicine Buddha's body that's brilliantly illuminating limitless, countless, boundless realms, you know. So all the darkness, not only physical darkness, but the mental darkness, the depression, the despair, the confusion of sentient beings, all of that gets illuminated, you know. And then you think of the medicine Buddha's body with the 32 signs. Those of you who've been following the Precious Garland teachings, we went into these and some of their causes. And then the 80 marks, which are also physical manifestations of realizations and the different types of accumulation of merit on the Bodhisattva path. And you think of Medicine Buddha having made this kind of resolve when you're in the back of that van. What's that going to do to your mind? Yeah? I mean, your mind's going to go to a whole different place, isn't it? Yeah, whole different place. And to be really, you know, focus on Medicine Buddha. There's a being that's compassionate, that's, you know, made a determination like this for people just like you in the horrible situation that you're in. Yeah, and you have a feeling for the Medicine Buddha's body, which is physically displaying the qualities of his heart and mind. Yeah, that would really do something to you, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay, and so Medicine Buddha here is determining, may everybody else, when he says wholly resemble me, meaning, you know, may I lead them on the path so that they too can create the causes for becoming a fully awakened being in the form of the Medicine Buddha. So there's not just one Medicine Buddha or 7 Medicine Buddhas, so to speak, but different beings, different ones of us, get enlightened in the form of different Buddhas according to certain tendencies, predispositions, you know, affiliations that we have. Yeah, so don't just think there's one Medicine Buddha. You know, there's many, many, and beings who do that practice as their main practice get enlightened in the physical form of the Medicine Buddha. Okay, so he's saying, you know, it's open for everybody to do. I'm here to help you. Okay, the second great vow. I vow that when I attain awakening in a future age, my body will be like lapis lazuli within and without. For me, talking about lapis lazuli has a special effect because when I traveled overland from Turkey to India, we went through Iran and Afghanistan, where there was lots of lapis lazuli, and the stone is completely beautiful. The color of it is just, I don't know, for me it's just this remarkable color that, you know, really does something to you. So here when he says, you know, my body will be like lapis lazuli within and without, bright with penetrating and flawless purity. Yeah, so just that color, completely pure, nothing else mixed in, you know. The radiance will be of great merit and will be imposing indeed. Yeah, so as a physical manifestation of the unimaginably great merit that he accumulated on the path to become a Buddha, then there's amazing radiance coming from his body. My body will be an excellent and tranquil dwelling, adorned with an how do you say the word areole? Areola. Say it again? Areola. Okay. With an areola-like glowing net surpassing the sun and moon in its radiance. Okay. So when he says, my body will be an excellent and tranquil dwelling, as if your mind could rest on the image of the medicine Buddhist body. And you see what happens when we do this meditation at the beginning of the morning session? When you're using that as your object of concentration? Does that settle your mind down? Does that make your mind tranquil? Yeah, it does. Okay. So like a glowing net surpassing the sun and the moon in radiance, I will show the dawn. Okay, the dawn always means enlightenment, Buddha attained awakening at dawn, the elimination of the darkness of ignorance. I will show the dawn to those beings who are completely concealed in darkness, the darkness of ignorance, so that they may act in accordance with their desired paths. Okay, so all the beings trapped by their ignorance. Now, hopefully through what we've been discussing this week, you have a little bit better idea of our ignorance, what our ignorance is, what our obscurations are. So, when we think of being concealed in this ignorance, and we're only touching the tip of the iceberg now, but to go really deep and see how much darkness of ignorance there is, not to mention the darkness that our mind goes into when we ruminate and when we go round and around and around and around and around and around about our problems and our difficulties and our fear and our anxiety, everything that's going wrong in my life and how incapable I am and how the world's against me, etc., 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 and then you add on to that, and plus I have to take care of these different people, and they're sick, and this is happening, that's happening, and I just lost my job, and all the worry and anxiety, all that kind of darkness. So the darkness of our afflictions plus all the darkness that gets going when our afflictions get activated and we get ourselves stuck in a very dark place of mind. Okay. Oh my God, the computer just went dark. Okay. So I will show the dawn to all those beings, I will show them how to get themselves out of that so that they may act in accordance with their desired paths. Okay? So different sentient beings have different aspirations. Yeah? And we have different aspirations sometimes because of just our temperament, but sometimes because of where we're at that particular time. Yeah, kind of what the situation, the internal, external situation for us is. So some sentient beings, at a particular time, their path may be, I just want to survive. So the medicine Buddha helps them with that. Other sentient beings, their path may be, I want a good rebirth. I don't want to be born in the lower realms. So the medicine Buddha teaches them how to create the causes for that. How to practice ethical conduct and generosity and so on. Other people, their inspiration, their desired path is to become a hearer or a Sravaka. Okay, somebody who hears the teachings and recites them to others and who wants to become an arhat. a liberated being. Other beings, their path is to be a solitary realizer, someone who also aspires to become an arhatship, but accumulates much more merit than others do. Okay? Other people, their path is the bodhisattva path. They aspire to become fully awakened. Okay? So the Buddha is able, because a Buddha's mind is completely purified of obscurations, and they have the divine eye, that type of clairvoyance, and other kinds of clairvoyance, the ability to see other people's minds and so on, then they can tell where somebody is at. What is their aspiration? What is their inclination? And then teach them accordingly. Yeah? We, on the other hand, we may want to help, we may have compassion, but do any of us know other people's levels of mind? Yeah, we don't even know our own level of mind. Our own mind is a puzzle to us. Yeah, so our ability to help is limited by our own darkness of confusion. Okay, so having these special powers of a Buddha really enables someone to be of much greater benefit. Yeah, and you'll notice that the Buddha teaches those according, in accordance with their desired path. So even though a Buddha may want eventually for everybody to become a Buddha, a Buddha doesn't inflict their agenda on everybody else. Yeah. Like, you stupid idiot, all you want is a good rebirth. Don't you realize how limited that is? What in the world are you doing so obsessed with that? You need to aspire to be a Buddha. And the person goes, that's too far beyond me. I'm just leaving goodbye. Yeah? Sometimes if we overdo it, sentient beings get discouraged. Not because of their wisdom, but because of their ignorance. But that sometimes happens. Have you ever had that happen to you? You tried to help somebody and it actually pushed them away? Because we were pushing our agenda on them. Okay? So Buddhas just meet people with where they're at. Okay? And then, of course, by leading them step by step, where they're at changes, and they can, be of greater and greater benefit. Okay, so that's kind of followed up in the next one. So the fourth one, I vow that when I attain awakening in a future age, if there are sentient beings who tread I skipped 3, didn't I? Okay, let's go back to 3. I vow when I attain awakening in a future age, with infinite and boundless insight and skillful means, I shall cause all beings to obtain all that they need. They shall never lack the necessities of life. Okay? So here, with infinite and boundless insight, so having insight into the nature of reality, skillful means knowing sentient beings' levels, of mind. So I shall cause all beings to obtain all that they need. How does a Buddha do that? Yeah? Does a Buddha open a store and say, here, come, discount for each and every one of you to obtain all that you need? No, that's not the way it happens. The way a Buddha leads us and guides us is by teaching us the Dharma so that then we can create the causes for whatever it is we need and desire. Okay? So he starts out, first of all, teaching us about karma and its effects, because that's, how our actions create the cause for our experiences. And so the Buddhas start out teaching that. Some people, at the very beginning, they can't understand karma. Yeah? So you teach them something simpler. Yeah? Like how not to throw sand in other people's eyes. Or, we have the famous story of, the Buddha who had one elderly monk sweep the courtyard, saying, I cleanse stains, I cleanse dust, I cleanse stains, I cleanse dust. And that helped him purify his mind. He eventually became an arhat. There's more to the story, but I won't go into it right now. But, so the Buddha deals with people with, where they're at. Yeah. Sometimes that's hard for us because we want people to be where they aren't at. Don't we? Like, can't you see that what you're doing is self-sabotage? Open your eyes. Just cut it. And the person can't. The karma's too heavy. The mind is too confused. Yeah? So Buddhas deal with that person the way, with where they're at. Hmm? So I think that's why you have all the, some teachers really emphasize merit-making activities. Yeah, writing out the sutras, making tsatsa, organizing events, building statues, making prayer wheels, building stupas. I think a lot of those kind of activities that are, they're physical, so they're easier for people to do, but they definitely involve serving the three jewels. For people with a certain mentality, then the Buddhas and the Dharma teachers prescribe those kind of activities for them. Okay? For other people, they prescribe other kinds of practices and activities. Because they're dealing with people the way they, with where they are at. Okay? And then it says, I shall cause all beings to obtain all that they need. Okay. What do we need? What do sentient beings need? What are the necessities of life? Maslow has a whole series of stages of what your necessities of life are. So don't just think the 4 requisites of food, clothing, shelter, and medicine, We need friends and companions. We need meaning in our life. Yeah? We need a spiritual element in our life. There's many different kinds of things. We need to know what it is to extend affection and to receive affection. Yeah. And then, of course, all the needs we have to accomplish the path. So the Medicine Buddha is really pledging to hang in there with sentient beings and help them gain all of these things. Okay, now we'll go on to number 4. I vow that when I attain awakening in a future age, if there are sentient beings who tread upon heterodox paths. Okay, so paths full of wrong views. Now, we say a view is wrong, not because it doesn't agree with what the Buddha taught, but because when somebody thinks like that, then their actions of body, speech, and mind become very harmful and they create a lot of negativity physically, verbally, and mentally, which then throw them into bad rebirths or create, horrible circumstances for them even when they're born in good rebirths. Yeah. So, in the early days, the translations were not so good. And, one of my teachers, he taught himself English, I think, by reading the dictionary. He was in this school that this nun, Frida Bailey, established for the young tulkus. And I think he must have read the dictionary and learned different words. And so he would say, heretics, for all the people who are heretics. And we all went, because the word heretic in English is loaded. What does it connotate for you? Yeah, burning people. Yeah. What happened in Salem, in Spain, the Inquisition, that's all people who were heretics. And it's like, kind of, we want to vanquish the heretics. No, we don't. We don't want to become like those people in Salem and Spain and all that. No way. But of course, he just had read the dictionary. He didn't know what that word meant to us. He still uses it, I think, because habits, old habits die hard.
So in this translation, it's heretical.
You noticed I changed it. I sent you the old version, and then I read it, and I'm like, okay, some of these things are getting changed here. Like the word sin. Oh, horrible word. And some of the translation committee for the Lamrim Chenmo, they agreed to use the word sin. I really disagree. I think it's too loaded of a word. In English, it gives people totally the wrong idea.
Definition and connotation,
Yeah. Right. So the definition may match, but the connotation is like, original sin, sinful, going to hell, irredeemable, evil. Yeah. Oh, that's another translation thing. Sometimes they translate for unfortunate rebirths, the evil gone realms. Like where all the evil people go. I mean, the word evil it's like sin. It makes my skin crawl. And people ask me sometimes, this comes up a lot. They say, what about evil people? What about the evil in the world? And I say, there are no evil people. What? Isn't there the devil? No. But what about Hitler and Stalin and Mao Zedong? They were people who did horrible actions out of confusion because they were suffering. And they're experiencing horrible results, but they are not evil. They have the potential to become Buddhas. The other person is like, yeah.
You're a heretic.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a heretic, all right. A happy heretic. Yes, a happy hairless heretic. Okay. So, heterodox paths. Again, those who've been following the teachings on the precious garland, there was a big section in chapter 1 about people who follow wrong paths, and how confused they are, how damaging it is, and how even more horrible than following the wrong path yourself is teaching those wrong paths to others, because then you're not only ruining your own life, you're ruining the lives of other living beings. Yeah, and Nagarjuna talked about this at length, and he used that example, which is very firm in my mind. I don't know if you guys remember it as much as I do, but the example he used is of a bunch of cows walking along the edge of a cliff. The cliff being, the suffering of the lower realms, the cows who are ignorant, and how, cows just follow the leader. So it's like somebody who has really horrible wrong views. Everybody else follows him. He may be terribly charismatic and enchanting, yeah, and people go, wow, what a wonderful teacher, But it's like a cow walking. They're all walking along the edge of that cliff, and the cow starts on a path that's going down the cliff. Or the cow starts on a path that's going into a deep jungle. Yeah, dangerous. Yeah, cows starting to walk down a cliff does not go over well. They're too big and clumsy. Cows going into deep jungles also doesn't go well. Yeah, but all the other cows just follow. And then everybody winds up in this horrible state. So, yeah, that image I find quite powerful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jim Jones. Mm.
Adolf Hitler.
Yeah, Hitler, all sorts of people, full of wrong views, and then everybody just follows. Very dangerous. Okay, so if there are sentient beings who tread upon heterodox paths, I will cause them all to peacefully abide within the path of awakening. Wow. Do you know what vowing to do this means? Yeah, it means you're going to take all those people who not only are chock-a-block full of, the distorted views of seeing impermanent things as permanent and things that are foul as beautiful and things that are in nature of being unsatisfactory as happiness and things that lack a self as having a self. You're not only those normal afflictions, but you're going to take all the people who have these really hard, crusty, wrong views that they're very firmly attached to. Okay, these people are going to be hard to lead, aren't they? Yeah, they're not going to be easy. And what are you going to do? I will cause them all to peacefully abide within the path of awakening. How's that for fortitude? What are you going to have to go through to help sentient beings like that?
Chicken herding.
It's going to be very difficult. Yeah, because these sentient beings are going to fight you. What is it? Hook, line, hook, line, and sinker.
No, that's something. Tooth and nail. There's two. Hook, line, and sinker.
There's one, hook, line, and sinker, and then there's tooth and nail. Huh? Hook, line, and sinker.
Like a fish that grabs the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fighting you tooth and nail.
Okay. Oh, okay. They're fighting you tooth and nail. Okay. Nails? I don't know. Oh, these nails. Okay, yes, like the kitties. Okay, yeah.
You should give those to Geshe Doggle when he comes in September.
Oh, yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker, tooth and nail, and see what he thinks.
Yeah. Well, you had to educate me on them, and I grew up here. Okay, but imagine what you're committing yourself to do if you're going to help these beings with these kind of wrong views. Whew. You know, it's going to take a long time, and they're not going to be real cooperative. Yeah, they're going to refute you, they're going to call you names, they're going to throw things at you, they're going to try and convert you. Yeah, they're going to drive you crazy, and you're not going to give up on them. You're going to hang in there and lead them to the path of awakening. Powerful, isn't it? Yeah, when you think of what bodhisattvas do. Because, I mean, look at us. Sometimes, you know, we have compassion, we help somebody, and then, you know, for a while they're okay, and then they relapse. Or they ignore what we tell them. Or they say, yes, but. Or they say yes, but then they go and do the opposite. At least with the but, they tell you beforehand. Yeah. So these kind of people, and we just go, yeah? And it's just like, I can't take it anymore. And, you know, because we can see what they need to do so clearly, you know, aside from the fact that we can't see what we need to do very clearly. Yeah, but we see what they need to do so clearly. Yeah. And, you know, we're so compassionately trying to help, and they just aren't cooperating, you know. And sometimes we just want to throw up our hands. And so what it takes at that time is, okay, I'm doing something, it's not working, what I'm doing is not working now, I have to revisit my strategy. I have to revisit my expectations. Instead of expecting, you know, them to change quickly and to get it quickly, let's go back a few steps, yeah, and maybe we have to just start with winning their trust. And that may take a long time of, you know, giving them cookies and smiling at them. Yeah, and then maybe they'll start to trust us. And then slowly, you know, we start to do different things. We experiment. We see what works, what doesn't work. Sometimes, if you're a bodhisattva with these clairvoyant powers, then you might know that what you told them right now, they're going to rebel at right now, or they're going to ignore right now, but sometime down the line, because you planted the seed in their mind, they're going to remember it. So maybe what you did was the right strategy, but it's not going to ripen for a while. So you still have to be patient. Yeah? It's not easy being a bodhisattva, but they say that the bodhisattvas are tremendously joyful doing this. Yeah? And when a bodhisattva says, here's somebody saying, I need help, it's like music to their ears. Nice kind of music. You know? Not hard rock, you know, but it's like, oh, wow, I get to go help somebody. How fantastic.
I have to share that it was very impressive for me in Taiwan when we visited one monastery. There was a nun, a student, and she yelled at the teacher, at the abbess, and everybody kind of totally shocked. I never heard something like that, a student yelling towards a teacher. And then later on she told us that
Who told you?
the teacher.
The teacher told you. Okay.
That you know, when you're on the Bodhisattva path, when you're training, you have to go through this. And she was so joyful. She just accepted where the student is, and she said exactly the same. You have to apply different methods how to relate to that student, and maybe she needs a copyright now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. If are there, so all those people on heterodox paths, to put them within the path to awakening. If there are those who are adherents of the Shravaka, the hearer, or Pratyeka Buddha, the solitary realizer paths, vehicles, they will all become securely established in the great vehicle, the Mahayana. So those beings, I was saying before, who aspire for arhatship as hearers or solitary realizers, then to say, okay, that's very good what you're doing, but here, look at this is better. You know, you can become a fully awakened Buddha. You can, have more ability to benefit others. And so awakening within them their great compassion, their altruistic intention. Okay, so this again takes a lot of work because these beings are very firmly on their path and they don't always want to hear something different. So I'm going for arhatship. Let me do that. Don't, interrupt me. Or maybe they've already become arhats and they're just enjoying that. And the idea of working for all sentient beings is a bit too much for them. So again, being very skillful in knowing when to intervene and how to talk to these people. Yeah. When I was in Thailand some years ago, I stayed at a wat there, and of course, this topic of liberation versus and full awakening, the goal of an arhat, the goal of full Buddhahood, it came up in many of my discussions with some of the monks there. And it was very interesting to hear what they said. I mean, one person just said, a bodhisattva ideal sounds nice, but it's just too much for me. I just can't handle it, And somebody else said, bodhisattva ideal? That's fantasy. Yeah, it's just make-believe. Nobody can really do that. Yeah? And another person said, actually, the best thing I can do for sentient beings is get liberated myself and stop bugging them. And then, then there was one monk, and he said, what are you doing following Nagarjuna? He lived, centuries after the Buddha. You should, follow the Pali scriptures. He was quite angry. We had some interesting discussions. So it was really quite interesting, to listen. And then there were a couple of other people who said, there's one other young monk who said, oh, tell me more. Yeah. He said, I'm curious about this. What's this about? Yeah?
So I'm very curious. So there you are, and you're listening to other people talking about their past. What did you do in that situation?
I'm steady on my path. I mean, I know what I'm doing. What they said didn't influence, my aspiration for the bodhisattva path at all. When they asked questions, which some of them did, then I talked about bodhicitta. And that was okay with their teacher. He was fairly open-minded. And so every opportunity I got, I unleashed the propaganda. Yeah, for the bodhisattva propaganda as much as I could.
The best evangelist.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm kind of getting at. It's sort of like hearing turning around people that are on the wrong paths and things like that. How and it also seems like this is dangerously close to manipulation and or if I do it wrong, or me pushing an agenda. So
Yeah. Okay, this is a good point, that it sounds like being dangerously close to manipulation, pushing my agenda or whatever. Manipulation is, you have a goal in mind and you are sneakily trying to convert these people into your goal. Pushing is you're not being sneaky, you're just being forceful right there, okay? And of course we don't want to manipulate people or push people, because in the end it doesn't work, because then their following isn't something sincere from them, from their side. They're doing it out of obligation or out of, fear of reputation or something like that. So the clue here is our motivation. That's the clue. It's manipulation or pushing if we have the idea, my way is the best way. Yeah, and they've got to do it my way because my way is the best way. Yeah, that isn't having compassion for them. That's having arrogance and conceit. Okay? So clearly with arrogance and conceit, we may do something that looks good, but it's done with the wrong motivation. Yeah. So here you just need to check your motivation. Yeah. And if you aren't, attached to what you're doing and looking at Buddhism like, here's the Seahawks and, everybody's got to root for the Seattle team. Why? Because it's my team, so where religion generates into like a football match, with everybody rooting for their team. If you don't have that motivation and you're sincerely wanting to share, and people ask questions, answer, don't hide. Don't, if people ask questions, actually it's part of the Bodhisattva commitment that you reply to their questions and you help them along things. Sometimes, at the beginning, the best thing to do is just to show by example. People don't even want to, they aren't ready to even hear words yet. They have to see your example of how you live, and then they get interested. Yeah. And here I like to tell the story. Some of you remember Cindy from DFF years ago. She was a woman with red hair who had lupus, so she was in a wheelchair. And she had the temper of somebody, as they say, redheads, and she worked for the FAA, and so they used to call her Hellfire on Wheels. She was not always super popular at the office. But she met the Dharma and she started to practice. And, people started to notice a change in her. And they were saying, what are you doing? You're not like you used to be before. And then she said, I'm going to this Buddhist group and I'm trying to learn and practice and everything. And it became so that one of her colleagues, Cindy we have a series of like 150 plus talks on the Lam Rim, and one of her colleagues borrowed the whole series from her, And how did he get interested? Just by her behavior at the office. Yeah? So you have to see different situations call for different things. Yeah. But I don't think we should be a closet Buddhist, nor should we stand on the street corner passing out literature. There's got to be some middle way in there. Okay? It's not Hari Buddha. Hari Buddha. So, but there's a middle way. And, when you go in the office and people say, oh, what did you do on your holiday? You say, I went on a meditation retreat. I went on a Buddhist retreat. And they say, why did you do that? You could have gone to Tahiti. And you say, actually, it brought me much more benefit and a much more settled mind going on this retreat than going to Tahiti.
And wasn't as expensive.
Yeah, much less expensive.
I was going on a retreat.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what kind of retreat? I said, Buddhist. He said, oh, no.
Yeah.
I said, Dad, I don't tell you that about your faith.
Mm-hmm.
I don't just put you down. I want you to stay Christian if you want to stay Christian.
Yeah. But please respect what I do. Yeah? Okay. Oh, we're at time. Okay, so those are four of the vows or great unshakable determinations. Okay. Uh-huh.
It says page 152. What's that?
That's 152 out of the book that I got it at, but I didn't write down who published the book. It was from Singapore. It was one of the, I don't know. Did we bring back any on a recent, maybe somebody, not recently, maybe check the library, see if we have something? Or
The Master Metin Buddha Sutra I saw in the library.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's from that.
Yeah, if it's the same version,
Yeah.
it may be. Yeah, okay. So,
One more question.
I have
Mhm.
this story.
Oh.
Go ahead, yours is probably more.
Oh, no, go ahead. I have one question. It's your turn. Go ahead.
yes,
I have a historical question.
yes.
Hysterical, I'm sure. But I was reading Lama Zopa's the healing,
Mhm.
healing. And the healing Buddha and the four goddesses.
The healing Buddha.
The healing Buddha and the four goddesses
Yeah.
from Padmasambhava. Does this direct, or did it come with Padmasambhava earlier and end up going to
Oh,
China?
I'm unfamiliar with this. I would have to read what he wrote. Yeah, if you can. Oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would help me because I'm unfamiliar with this.
I was just going to say, you mentioned, that this monk mentioned the Pali text and verses,
Mhm.
Mahayana study and everything. And that's not a new argument to any religion.
Mhm.
I mean, I know that from Bible college. We studied ancient Greek instead of ancient Latin, and there was that argument. And, if you take these other texts like Catholics do that are later, that come from popes, what do you say to that as a Buddhist?
You mean in terms of Pali Canon versus the Mahayana Sutras? Actually, there's a whole lot to say, but first what I do is I try and get to know the person and to see where they're at, what they've studied, what they've heard before, why they think the way they think. And then I present one of several arguments according to which one I think is going to be most effective for that individual. Yeah. There's several different arguments. Read volume 1 to be published hopefully next August. Huh? Of a series of texts that's going to be called the Library of Wisdom and Compassion.
By you?
His Holiness.
Ooh.
Okay, so volume 1 has a big section on this.